Ooh, boy, he did that loud enough tonight.
You got your attention this time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor, Council, I don't have any additions or corrections for you.
I'd make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Invocation, Cross Point Church. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, I'll open us up in prayer then. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your generosity towards us through Christ, and I pray a blessing over this council, and that they would, Lord, they would have the wisdom they need to make decisions, that your favor would rest on them and their lives and on their families. Lord, we pray for our community, that there would be healing where there are divisions, that we would be a people that care for one another, that are willing to set aside differences in order to focus on the things that we do have in common and the goals that we have in common, and that we would thrive together as a people. And Lord, I pray for tonight and the agenda items that need to be discussed, that things would just be able to go smoothly here in our city. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? If not, we have a resolution number 15365, a resolution accepting $500 cash donation from Steve Cook and Kay Nelson for the 2022-23 Sculpture Stroll, and that's for the Judges Award.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution 15365.
I will second.
Motion by Mary, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public comment. Anybody who wants to address the council, please come forward, state your name and address. Alrighty, we'll approve the minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of September 28th, 2021, and the workshop of September 28th, 2021.
Make a motion to approve them.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve those minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We have the consent agenda. This will be done by one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A is appointment of Troy Pullis to the Airport Commission through September of 2024. And B is the reappointment of Doug McGraw to the Airport Commission to September 2024. C is approval of the Spooky Sprint 5K event request on October 30th, 2021. D is approval of the suspended of sound amplification, that's easy for me to say tonight, equipment ordinance for an event at Vineyard Methodist Church on October 16th, 2021. Approval of suspending sound application equipment ordinance for an event hosted by the McLeod County Alliance at West River Park on October 17th, 2021. F is approval of issuing short-term gambling license to the Gopher Campfire Sanctuary on November 30th, 2021 at the Les Cuba Parkway. G is approval of professional service agreement with AE2S Incorporated for water, wastewater, SCADA programming. H is approval of purchase of Public Works Department 1-ton trucks. I is approval of recycling aggregate crushing service at Creekside. J is approval of improvement project change order number 2 and number 3, letting number 3 project number 21-03 wastewater headwork improvements. K is approval of items for the 2022 pavement management program, letting number 1 project number 22-01. And we have 2 resolutions underneath there. We have resolution number 15359, ordering preparation of reports on improvements, and resolution number 15360, receiving report and calling for hearing on improvements. L is approval of resolution number 15361, setting interest rates for the 2021 adopted assessment rules. And M is approval of resolution number 15364, establishing location for a traffic control device, no parking on portions of 2nd Avenue Southwest. And N is claims appropriation and contract payments. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off?
Can you go through that whole list again? So-
A is what?
Good. I'd make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks for not making me repeat all that. We do not have a public hearing. We have review of the 2022 leaf vacuuming service information. Mr. Olson.
I'd like to note that they're a day ahead. Mine got picked up today.
Yeah, that's one of the.
That experiment?
We'll talk about that. That's a question we get quite often, actually, Pat, is, we do go ahead if we can. Oftentimes, to try to, when we get into the busier time of the year, obviously it helps to scoop a load out of the next days if you can. But this time of year, a lot of it has to do with employee training and learning how to operate those things and do it safely and correctly and all of the above. But we've started our 12th year of service today, and we'll continue following the day of your garbage. The very last day of the service is November 21st, the Monday prior to Thanksgiving. And so we do have schedules that are available online by using the city's website. Right in the front there, there's you should be able to click on there and it'll give you the schedule. We do ask that folks, the best way to describe it is we want a long, narrow, uniform height windrow out in front of the property. That's the best. I know some people have a lot of leaves, like Councilmember Christensen here at her house. That uniform height is about 4.5 feet.
Not me.
Your neighborhood.
Yeah, in that neighborhood, it can be pretty tall, when the leaves are really going at it. But that's the key, not piles, is really what we're looking at. It makes the process go much faster, and we can get through everybody in the day. We do, like I said, there may be times that the vacuums are in areas other than that day, so it could be a day ahead. More often it's a day ahead. Sometimes we have to go back and pick up what we may have missed earlier. But we will go by on the designated day, without a question. That can happen anywhere between roughly 7 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night on a typical. If we do need to do some cleaning elsewhere in the city, particularly in areas where there's a lot of parking or at some public facilities or things like that, we may do kind of overnight, early morning type operations. So we ask that folks don't rake the leaves into the street until the day of your garbage. And then we want to make sure that they're leaves only. We don't want to pick up big wads of grass. We don't want to pick up garden waste. That's not what the service is for. It can cause some headaches with the intakes in the machinery. So, yeah. If I don't think we have any streets that are open that are not yet paved, project streets, so I think we're going to be fine there. We did last year have a neighborhood that was, left gravel over this time, and then we don't pick up on the gravel streets. So, happy to answer any questions.
I have one for you.
Yes.
Okay, it's gonna rain tomorrow, so are they gonna pick up wet leaves?
Yes.
All right.
Rain or shine, we go.
All right.
It does make it a little bit slower, and obviously they're heavier, but we keep marching on. The only thing that would happen is if we get such a rain event that we're needed for other duties that are of a higher priority, then we would have to draw people off of that crew and
All right.
attack
You
those.
also said that the last date was November, right before?
21st, I think.
Right
Yeah.
before Thanksgiving.
Is that
Right.
Monday, John? I think it's the
If it
20th.
Yes.
if it snows before then,
Yes.
you will quit picking up leaves?
Yeah, it's happened twice in the 12-year period. Last year being one of them. As you recall, we had a pretty substantial snowfall and some pretty cold temperatures as early as the 20th of October last year. We did kickstart again after that first snowfall because we had temperatures come back up, but it wasn't long after that we got a second one. I believe that was in like early November. And then the temperatures did not recover, so we were done. So we had our shortest season last year. It was about, by the time we figured it out, it was 2.5 weeks roughly out of the 6 that we were able to pick up. And so, of course, we were way down on the amount of leaves that we collected. But the other time it was, we ended up doing 5 out of the 6 weeks, and it was that last week of November that we weren't able to go out there. We had to switch everything over to snow. So I'm hoping we can go right to the bitter end like we do, most of the time, and that we'll be able to finish this year. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks, John.
See, John, maybe have the operators take some pictures of
Sure.
the nice windrows.
The good ones? Yes, I thought about that today.
Yeah,
That'd be-
Bad also.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Mine
guess
are perfect.
in my mind, I understand it because I remember,
yeah,
from years, but, like you said, it happens years and years, it keeps happening. So
Sure.
maybe next council meeting, you can throw some pictures
sure,
up of
absolutely. Or
good
we'll,
windrows and bad ones.
at the least, we'll get them on the website of kind of what we're looking for, and
That'd
'cause
be perfect.
there's some areas, particularly ash trees and some of the really early maples. There's some areas with some pretty sizable windrows in front of properties, and that's okay. That's good. So, thank you.
Well, and John, you were talking about, I had a question from one of the residents about, like you said, set your mower a little higher, suck the
Yes.
leaves up.
Yes.
Don't cut the,
Right.
If you gotta mow your lawn again, suck the leaves up first and then go back and mow it.
Yes, that's the best way to do it. More often than not, you can whiz through, pick the leaves up, and make one more pass and take care of the grass. And you know, if we do find solid green, we're not gonna pick it up. We'll be knocking on your door. So it's just such a shock to the fan because it's a direct. The leaves hit the fan directly as they're moved into the back. So if you have a heavier material like green grass, that really puts a shock on it and can cause issues with the clutches and the belts and the spindles. So
And the cost of the machines are?
they're not cheap. They're $100,000. The one we bought before this last one was about 68,000, and they went up to 100,000. And I'm hearing that we could probably see north of that quite a bit. Generally, equipment prices similar to the one-ton trucks, they're up about 20%.
Well, I will say one thing.
Mhm.
The public loves this service.
Yes,
We
yes.
hear it all the time.
Yeah, we get thumbs up instead of the other finger, which is nice. So we appreciate that, and yeah, no, very much so.
So they need to do it right so that we can maintain this service.
Yeah, we want to keep it going, and the best thing you can do is put, again, the long row that's somewhat even in height across the expanse of it is the best. So, okay.
So don't go by Mary's house to look how.
Yeah, I don't know. She does a good job, but sometimes that uniform height is way up here. You know, there's a lot of leaves and a very narrow frontage, so there's lots to get done. And there's many streets like that. We understand that you only have whatever 60, 70 feet.
60, 70 feet.
Yeah, and a lot of leaves. So, but the length of it and try to keep it even. Because then we can run by with the snout up and take the top section off and back up and grab the rest, and it works quite well.
They do that almost on all of Jewel.
Yep, pretty much the whole road. Yeah, a lot of mature trees in there. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
New business, first reading of ordinance number 21-826, ordinance authorizing sale of municipal land owned to MGE Properties LLP.
LLP, yes, so. Mayor and council, this was actually a discussion we had in a previous closed session regarding a request that we had from a property owner at 125 First Avenue Southwest. That's the New Era Financial Group. They're looking at expanding their business in the downtown area, and the city currently owns a small little parking lot there. And through our discussions, the council was comfortable in trying to negotiate a sale of that land, of that parking lot, of which we were able to, at least Mark and I, working with the property owner, were able to enter into a purchase agreement, which is in front of you tonight for consideration. Per our city charter, any land that the city decides to sell needs to be done through an ordinance, which requires 2 readings. And so staff is asking that you consider having a first reading of this ordinance. And just a couple minor things. It's the lot's 66 by 66. The sale price is $16,378. So I'll entertain any questions you may have. If not, ask you to consider having a first reading of that ordinance.
I'd make a motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve first reading. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 15358, resolution to accept the coronavirus local financial recovery fund established under the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yep, Mayor and Council, as we've talked about at a couple different budget workshop meetings, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, the city is expected to receive just over 1.4 million. We received our first half of that funding, I think it was back in July or August. And one of the things that we technically need to do is officially accept that money in a resolution. And, we've talked about right now, we're kind of, at least with the directors, we're in the phase of kind of putting a list of ideas together. That eventually will come back to the council. We'll ask you guys to consider some future projects and then officially designate the use of that money. But right now, like I said, it's more of a technical thing. Just need you to actually accept the funds that we're receiving.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution 15358.
I will second that.
Motion by Mary, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consideration of state bonding allocation request. We have resolution number 15362, a resolution supporting capital improvements and betterment of Campbell Lake and Otter Lakes and the South Fork of the Crow River and other contributaries to the lake. Can we do both of them, Matt?
Yep, if that's your desire.
All right, and then we also have resolution number 15363, a resolution supporting capital improvements of the Minnesota Civil Air Patrol Training Center, and that's Camp Craig.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. John Olson and I will kind of be splitting the duties on this one, so I'll take A and he'll take B. What you have in front of you tonight is resolutions asking for support of the council relative to two state bonding dollar requests. The first being item A is for the improvement of Campbell and Otter Lake. This is considered phase 2. As you may recall, we received $3 million earlier this year from the 2020 session. This is an expansion of that. We're currently in the process of working through environmental assessments and things for phase 1. We figured we'll continue to move these forward as we get additional funding as the project continues to evolve over time. So this is basically our second ask. In addition to the initial $3 million, this is for $3.5 million. There are no additional requirements for non-state match. The city does note within the resolution that we committed in 2019 $500,000 to that, I believe from community improvement dollars. But like I said, it's not required, but thought it was worth noting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Like I said, this is phase 2 of that initial ask. So we'll continue to move forward, and really it's about expanding upon ultimately what we ended up accomplishing with phase 1. Phase 2 would be a continuation of that, looking at improvements within the basin, improvements outside within the watershed, both water quality based and habitat improvements, so on and so forth. So happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Mayor and Council, you may recall, I think when we did our initial study that we got in 18 or 19, I think we had estimated through all the different improvements that we had identified that it was going to be $18 to $22 million to do everything. And obviously we knew it wasn't going to be a take care of it in one shot. And so we've talked about it was going to be probably a 15 to 20 year plan. And so we're just kind of continuing to move forward with that, making these requests. And, I think we're all being honest, we're probably not going to get money every year that we go, but we just want to make sure that we continue and that we're continuing to have those conversations at the state level. Because obviously it's a water body that impacts Hutchinson, but it also impacts the area around Hutchinson as well. Maybe with just the conversation you want to take, I want to take those resolutions one at a time, yeah.
We'll just do resolution number 15362 first.
I have a question for John.
Airways?
Has there been much effort, like improving the watershed west of here to stop the sediment? Like what's been happening in that front?
There's been some. Soil and Water's been active on the northwest. They've put some sediment basins in and some grass waterways and things like that. With phase 1, that's one of the places we're going to be looking at as well. We recently met with them a couple weeks ago, Soil and Water Conservation District staff, to really start nailing down and looking at areas west of town, up gradient or upstream, if you will. That includes looking at areas that are beneficial for sedimentation basins, areas where we know there's washout occurring, and really it's about identifying those, and then also trying to not just identify them, but find willing landowners that would be willing to participate in leveraging other state dollars potentially, potentially using some of the 3 million initially to get those things moving forward. But it's kind of a delicate balance. It's one to identify where the best places are, but you still need landowner partnerships to be able to make that happen. But yeah, primarily that's what's going to be focused on outside of the basin. I say that in basically in upland areas, in areas where we know erosion's occurring. There's a lot of it in areas that we can get a lot of bang for our buck to reduce and eliminate that erosion from coming into the stream. So ultimately, we don't have to remove it down the road. But yeah, that's a big part of that. Phase 2 is a continuation of that. And I think ultimately every phase beyond here was going to be looking at balancing in-basin improvements, habitat, sediment, those types of things, and kind of coupling that with water quality improvements upstream.
So the South Fork actually originates
Up by Wilmer.
actually out of Candy
Candy.
Lake, right?
Yep.
Candy Ojai Lake.
The North Fork actually extends up into the Spicer area as well. So the South Fork starts at Big Candy there and
Yeah.
flows through a number of different lakes in that area, Wakanda and others. Some of those are pretty polluted too.
Any other questions for John?
I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve resolution number 15362. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. I'll
John.
kick it over to John here.
Olson, you will
Paperwork
take.
Funds are expensive tonight, so, regarding the Civil Air Patrol Training Center, we met with, Civil Air Patrol, and because of the, well, they received their money in 2017 from the state legislature to do this project. Obviously, the prices have changed since 2017. And so what we're looking at is that they will be able to build a large hangar, do the apron and the connection into the to the taxiway and runway. That is scheduled to kind of get going next spring. So obviously we've already brought some water and sewer utilities into there. They're going to bring do some site improvements, bring some utilities back to that hangar, and begin with that hangar. The bond request this year is actually for the actual training center portion of the project. So this would be the building with the barracks and the classrooms and kitchen, along with some athletics field space that they'll incorporate into the project. They had started out last year recognizing very quickly that they were going to be well over that the design. So they started whittling it down, and then I think probably picked the worst day in history to open up a bid, which was July 1st of this past summer. Obviously we're so they've had to do a little bit of retooling and rethinking and reshaping, but by doing it this way, they can actually construct what they had originally planned. So the hangar that will be built next spring already will be the hangar that they designed from the very beginning. Over the course of time, it whittled down to a pretty small building, but now with this, they'll be able to build that larger. So the bond request is for $6.5 million, and coupling that with their money that they received from the state legislature in 17, so an overall project of about $10 million. We did meet with Representative Erdahl, who kind of guided us through this process, and so we'll see how this goes. Any questions on CAP?
You know, I will say as we met in that meeting about a month ago, is you found out that, you know, they had a lot bigger project from the very beginning that they've pulled down over the years,
Right.
as John noted, and I think they're hoping to be able to get funding to go back to that original project.
So like right now, is the campus thing kinda in limbo, or if they don't get the money?
I think they'll continue on. You know, if this were not approved this year, I think they'd reapply again. And I think that would be a wise thing to do because, you know, obviously the city of Hutchinson has invested some in that. They will now have had an investment of, you know, well over $3 million. So that would make the next phasing of this a little bit more palatable. And then there becomes, we've segmented out pieces of the project to, you know, phase if we have to. Obviously, you know, the ideal situation would be to be able to build next spring, find out sometime next spring that yes, you're approved for the, and then proceed the following year with the construction of
I
it.
think the project that the previous council had seen went out for bids, and the bids were $2 to $3 million above
Yeah,
their estimate.
Yeah.
And so you go, why are they asking for 6.5?
Yeah.
I think what
Yeah.
they're trying to do is go back to what they originally had planned, probably
Right.
in 15, 16.
right, which was a larger campus too.
And so I think that tells you, you know, depending on what they could potentially get, will
Mhm.
probably depend on what the ultimate end project will be for
Right,
them.
right.
To us, you know, we see it obviously as a win-win. If they want to build it bigger,
Yeah.
it's great for us.
Yeah, I mean, it
But
works.
I think there's still intentions on doing something, you know, because a lot of people
Yeah.
have asked, well, where's the project? And that's,
Yeah, so right now, for sure, we're gonna see a hangar out there, and it's gonna be a big one. It's a 100-foot hangar, so it's a substantial construction. And we'll see activity out there from CAP in the hangar. The hope is that this will follow behind that and trickle down. Last but not least, just a reminder that we're a part of, with the McLeod County Highway Department, Public Works Department, they put in a bonding request for the HATS facility for construction of a vehicle equipment storage building, about 18,000 square foot building, and improvements to our fueling system. And then the state did a bonding request for 2.2 of that, 2.2 million, and the county's is 4.4, but that'll be related to the HATS facility. So that, I think we did a resolution for that earlier this summer, so.
Right, John, you wanna talk about what CAP has out there right now? It's just a trailer house?
Right. Right now, the local squadron, the Hutchinson squadron, they brought on a construction type trailer, office trailer, and did a fair number of improvements to it, and gave the building back to the city, in essence. Their budget operates the building, you know, utilities wise and things like that. But we actually own the actual structure now. It would be very similar to that if once the CAP, if we were to go with this 6.5 bond, we'd actually own the building. We'd be putting some sort of a lease together. The way they're doing it now, it'll be a separate lease for the hangar and another separate lease for the training facility. So, because in that case, they'll have directly paid for that. We will not have paid any part of it or didn't have to sponsor that part of the project. So, all the preliminary work's been done for, you know, FAA's blessing. which was a struggle to get through, as you can well imagine. So we'll have some costs in updating some our airport layout plan and some things like that, which we've accounted for in the bond. So both projects will more than likely require us to do that. So and I think we've got everything accounted for. So yeah.
And this training site would be utilized by the whole state.
The entire state, yeah.
They're thinking that it'll reach out to surrounding states to be using this as a training site, because right now the CAP, when they do have training, they try to utilize active
state facilities,
and they said usually what happens is that if something goes on, they get pushed out. So they want this here training site. So
it'll allow them to schedule better and to get a better program put together, to have their own house and space per se. Right now, a lot of what they do statewide training wise is either at one of the larger Minnesota squadrons. Bemidji, for example, is oftentimes one that's used because they have a very large hangar there. And South St. Paul, of course, is their main headquarters, but oftentimes they're kind of tagging on with the military at Camp Ripley. And obviously, CAP is not the highest priority at Camp Ripley, so they said oftentimes they have to, at the last minute, change their program because of some issue. Yeah.
So John, how large is this building going to be now? What did you just say?
The Civil Air Patrol training facility, I believe, was in the neighborhood of 15 to 20,000 square feet. So a pretty large building.
But the hangar is what?
The hangar itself will be about 100, 10,000 square foot. So, and then so the pretty large size hangar, and then also a training facility, and the majority of that would be the barracks and the training area, and then they'd also have a full service kitchen. So, and that equipment has gone up in price quite a bit too. Furnishings and beds and bunk beds and
Could be lucky if they can get it.
Yeah, right. So the
body bus tour.
Oh yes, that's next Thursday, I believe, isn't it? Wednesday or Thursday, the 15th or 16th, something like that, whatever day that is. But yeah, they'll be out, and we'll be able to have a chance to meet with legislators that are part of the bonding committee, and we'll have just a brief.
Tuesday the 19th.
Tuesday, okay. So we'll have a brief time to kind of give them a picture of the projects that we're looking at, and they'll be out to take a look at hats and some of these others. So,
any other questions for John? Entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 1563.
second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, John. We have the library board minutes from August 23rd, 2021. We have the EDA board minutes from August 25th, 2021. The Hutchinson Utilities Commission minutes from August 25th, 2021. The Liquor Hutch third quarter report. The Senior Advisory Board minutes from September 27th, 2021. Chief Gifferson, you have anything for us tonight? No, sir. Tim?
I do not.
Mr. Olson? Mr. Paulson?
We received letter from DNR regarding the drought phase. They've actually lifted some of the drought condition restrictions across the state. So as of today, we sent out Facebook posting and then also posted on our website that the watering restrictions have hereby been lifted. Thought I'd mention it here tonight. I know we brought it forward to the council in July when we had implemented those restrictions. So I wanted to make mention of that. Otherwise, I have nothing else to add.
John, or Mr. Olson or Mr. Paulson, I just wanted to touch base on how the pond was doing out in, the Linden Park area.
Oh, sure.
How that performed in we had that 3-inch rain event and.
Yeah, we had a pretty speedy rain event, short duration, probably about a third the size of the big one in 16 when the pool floated out of the ground.
The water was on the wrong side of the pool.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
wanna talk
I
about
still wake up having nightmares about that one, but.
Like the Titanic.
But when we worked with SEH, they came up with a design that we've been implementing in phases. Obviously the big phase was to connect the storm sewer on the east side of the rec center that went up Merrill Street and over on Clinton and up into the pond. The thing that I noticed being during that event was we still had some on the west side. There were still some water pooling in the intersection at South Grade and Sunset, and obviously also up into the Sunset Neal intersection, and then into the parking lot. The thing that I noticed the most on the west side, and I know John took a peek over at the east side too, was that with the redesign of the parking lot itself is lower than it used to be by a little bit, but it's much more. The grade is much better than it used to be in that if you were parked in certain areas prior to the parking lot project being done, it was very likely that if you're in a sedan, you're going to get water up over the floor sill of the car. And we saw that was much, much lower. The deepest water in there, I would say, was probably around the 4-inch mark. You know, certainly something that isn't going to cause any damage to parked vehicles. The water cleared on the west side much faster than it has historically, by about 40 minutes faster. It cleared in about 25 minutes, and it was nothing to have that water sit there for well over an hour prior to this project. I'll let John talk about a little bit what he found on the east side and how that behaved.
Typically what we'd always see is down by that Cashwise intersection where that pedestrian crossing there, that would always surcharge as well during high intensity events. We did not see that this time. As John noted, the kind of the way that project's been phased with initial pond construction, now that the east side is completed, all of those connecting streets to Harrington all have an outlet now. They all have a direct connection into that pond, whereas that didn't exist before last fall. So that was really kind of the first test to see how that performed after a large high-intensity rain event that occurred here a couple weeks ago. I did not see any backyard flooding. Typically, we'd always see some localized flooding. That's not to say that there may not have been some somewhere, but from what I could tell, usually you could see that pretty easily from the street, and I did not observe any of that. Another important component of it too, even relative to the parking lot, the west side street that's not done, Sunset, is scheduled for next year. That project will then connect that west portion of it to that pond. Likewise too with the rec center parking lot. Them catch basins in there are intended to ultimately flow to the west and then hit Sunset and then get into the pond that way. So we actually anticipated we would see some localized flooding in the parking lot. As John noted, it's less than what we thought it probably would have been. But ultimately, next year's project should ultimately correct that entire west side too. I can't wait to see, I hate to say this, a high-intensity rain event once all of it's done. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's not a if, it's when. But I think, yeah, with what we've been seeing just on the east side and even some of the improvements on the west side, even though those systems aren't fully connected yet, I'm looking forward to seeing that thing fully implemented once that project is completed to see how it functions and performs. East side functioned beyond our expectations. It was great to see that heavy rain like that come and go and not have any type of traffic issues within South Grade. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, because I just wanted to bring this up because we had a lot of pushback when we wanted to put that, you know, when we voted to put that pond in, and evidently it performed well, because I know like on Church Street and stuff, in Merrill, they used to have a couple feet of water in their backyards, and so.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me the most, quite honestly, was the intersection of Church and Clinton. That used to be a swimming pool every time we got any kind of rain. And there was nothing. It was just, it drained. And that was the first in a long time. That's usually probably actually one of the lower spots in that whole neighborhood is right at that Church and Clinton intersection. So.
Did any of you look at how far the pond did come up in for water?
Yeah.
When it did rain, or?
It bounced to the top.
It did bounce quite a bit. When I say bounce, just the amount of elevation that it gained. And we didn't actually measure what that volume or that level of bounce was. We would anticipate it to bounce even more. That pond was designed to actually at one point completely fill up almost to the elevation of where those little T-ball fields are. There's actually a 1 foot cut bench in that area. That's basically the high water elevation. We didn't see, it wasn't anywhere close to that, but it definitely was probably about the fullest I've seen it. Primarily because we saw that water get there faster, whereas in the year before the east side was connected, it still got into the pond, but it had to surcharge that system, backflow in, and then slowly backflow back out. Now it's getting there right away. It's filling up faster, which is the way it's designed to operate. Yeah, there's still a lot more capacity. So that was the other part of it. We wanted to really get an idea per the modeling. You can model lots of things lots of different ways, but until you actually see a high intensity rain event go into that thing to get an idea, okay, is it really big enough? Modeling says it is, and thank God it performed as it should have. We still have plenty of capacity for when that west side gets connected. So
I would guess the bounce somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 to 40 inches.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yes, yes.
Right, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Mr. Sabora?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing? Mary?
Well, I really don't have anything except before it rains, if you got all them leaves stuck on those drains at the end of your street, go clean them out now.
You are the drain person.
I'm the drain person.
She's the
As I
drain
walk,
champion.
I'm just like horrified at how many are all covered with leaves.
So Pat, you're new, but everybody on the council has to pick a goofy thing they're into. So
Gotcha.
Mary's into drains, Gary's into fire hydrants, Bill Arndt was into tree
Trees.
watering this time of year. So you just
Chad's
gotta
into
pick
bikes.
something. You just gotta pick something goofy and
Just going off residence. When are the
Your
cones
niche.
getting removed from highways? The crossing. I'm like,
Sometime.
that I've gotten questions. And then the other one, you know, the up north, where we did the new sign deal, is that a city street that goes through there?
It is.
I had someone ask because they drove through and they're like, I don't know. I said, I think it is, but I wasn't sure. It is.
It is.
That's all I got. Questions?
Chad?
I do not have anything goofy.
Pat, you got anything else? No? One and done tonight? Okay.
Doing good.
Dave, what do you got?
Nothing, thank you.
Man,
Just two things briefly. I did send out an invitation for historic tours. I mentioned that a couple council meetings ago, so if you're interested in going, either let me know or sign up on that link that I sent you. And then I know, Tom Kloss did send out, an email to all of you, how we are updating our email addresses, which will eventually lead to an update of our, website too, so it's not the 15 sentences to get to your, it will be, I think Hutchinson Gov.
If you hit it hard enough with a hammer, it works.
Yep, so just, yeah, we're slowly transitioning over to new email addresses that will be a lot shorter, so. That's it for me.
All I have is, if it's all right with everybody, I'd like to put Kyle Wendling onto the Parks and Rec board.
Who was that?
Who?
Kyle Wendling.
I'll vouch for him. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Well, it'll get put on the next agenda, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I retract my motion.
Oh, that's
I
fine.
retract my second.
All right, otherwise, everybody be safe out there.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Pat,
I'll second.
second by Dave to adjourn.
Hungry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.